Hello everyone, welcome to the first part of this 4-part Linux fundamental series. The first part we will discuss basics of Linux, then in the second the intermediate, third video advanced, and the last one will be architecture and the file system, which is very important. Okay, so there is going to be a practical part to this video as well, and this is the theory part of it. So we understand the theory, we understand the basics of Linux, and then in the next video, which will be the practical, we will understand all of the commands that are written here. Okay, cool, let's begin. So firstly, I would like to explain to you how the internet works. Okay, this is a very simple process. Pretty much everybody knows this, but if you don't, this is like a high level overview of how the internet works. Okay, so this is the client, this is you, this is your phone, your laptop, whatever. Okay, so for example, if you put in youtube.com. Okay, so this is called a domain. Okay, so you type in this and you want to access the contents of youtube.com. Okay, so as a client, you send a request to your modem your whoever your internet service provider is, they will provide you with the modem. Okay, so you send a request to the modem, which directs your request to the router. Okay, again, this router is by the internet service provider. Okay, so what happens is all of this happens through fiber cables. Okay, because these data centers, okay, so whenever you type something like youtube.com, your request goes to a data center where this domain exists, right? Physically the data exists there in that data center. It could be, if you're in India, it could be in India. It could be in the US, it could be in Japan, anywhere. Okay, so in order to reach there, this happens through fiber cables. Okay, fiber optical cables. Okay, and these cables are like laid down under the seas, because you can't directly go from India to the US. You need to have a medium, right? So these cables are there inside of the seas, and it transmits data through that. Okay, so your internet service provider, if you have maybe Airtel or Jio or whatever, okay, they are responsible to put in these cables, create this communication. Okay, so yeah, so you send a request, it goes to your modem, it goes to a router. Okay, at the router, then there are these cables that connect. Okay, so all of this is done in terms of packets. They are small packets that are transferred with all of the data, your data. Okay, what you're requesting, that data. Okay, so it goes to the router. Okay, and the router takes it to the nearest DNS server. Okay, what is a DNS server? A DNS server is a server obviously, okay, which tells you what domain MAI is connected to which IP address. Okay, so on the internet, every device has an IP address. That is how they are known. Okay, that is the identity of any system, any device on the internet. Okay, so this DNS server, it stands for domain name server. Okay, it tells you, like you've entered youtube.com, right? So it tells you what the IP of youtube.com is. Okay, so the request that you send for youtube.com, it will go here, it will give you the IP. It won't give you, it will give the packet the IP. So this is the IP address. You have to go there to fetch this particular data. Okay, so you get the IP, you go to that IP address, and you find the server that hosts youtube.com. Whatever data you requested, you'll get it from here. And again, in terms of packet, it goes back to the DNS server. It's redirected through the internet. Okay, this is happening all through the internet. There are millions and millions of servers on the internet. Okay, so it hops from one server to another server, one network to another network, and that is how it reaches your router. Okay, the router will tell them, okay, so you might have like 10 devices inside of your house, right? You'll have your phone, your laptop, your mom's phone, your mom's laptop, all of that. Okay, so the router will tell that your phone, your IP address is what requested youtube.com. So it will be directed through your modem to your particular phone. Okay, so this is how basically the internet works. All of this happens through packets. Okay, but this is how it happens. Okay, so there are billions in this chain, there are millions of servers. Okay, millions of networks that are created, and you hop from one network to the other, one server to the other. Great. So now that you have a basic idea of the internet, so you saw that there are servers for everything, right? So Linux is used in most of these servers, okay, to set up the server. So Linux is very important because as a DevOps engineer, Okay, you will need to know how to create a server, how to troubleshoot if there are problems inside of the server, and how to maintain it as well. Okay, so what are the different types of servers? These are some common types of servers, but there are obviously more. So there's a web server which stores like static data, images, text. Then we have application servers. These are dynamic. I just wrote dy and it means dynamic. Okay, so application servers, email servers, database servers, proxy, DNS. We saw DNS right here. Okay, game, cloud, backup servers, DHCP, all of these types of servers. Now application servers, there are two types: standalone and web applications. Standalone basically do not require connection to any other server. Okay, so for example, you have a parking ticket system, right? So you just put in a coin and it gives you the ticket, right? So this doesn't require any, other server to be connected to this, right? It is a standalone server, it works on its own. Okay, but imagine if you had like a UPI payment option as well inside of this server. Okay, so then obviously you would require the connection to other servers, the payment methods, the authentication servers, everything. Okay, so that will become a web application server. Okay, this is a server that is connected to database servers, email servers, multiple servers. It cannot work on its own. I mean, it has a functionality, but in order to use that functionality, you will require the support of other servers as well. So these are two type of application servers. Okay, now understanding the architecture of Linux. Okay, so this is the architecture of Linux. Okay, so this is your hardware. HW is hardware. Okay, your mouse, your keyboard, your monitor, everything. Okay, how do you communicate with your hardware? The kernel. What is the kernel? Okay, kernel contains all of the operating system files, okay, which are needed to perform any operation. Okay, if you like try to open an application, that happens through your kernel, because it has the file to open that application. Okay, so how can you communicate with your kernel? You can have commands. Okay, so all of the commands that we will be seeing down here, all of these commands, okay, these you put it inside of a shell. You put these commands inside of a shell so that you can communicate with your kernel, so that you can see, so that you can communicate with your hardware. Okay, so that's what a shell is. It's the terminal, basically the terminal that we use to put in the commands. Okay, and then we have your applications. So whenever, for example, you have a text editor, okay, this is an application, right? So in order to open that application, you click on it, and in the background there are a lot of commands that are run that basically communicate to your kernel that we want to open this command. Okay, and it tells your monitor that please display this command on the screen. Okay, so this is what happens inside. This is the architecture. It is very basic, it is very elegant. Okay, and yeah, so the top three operating systems that are there is, one, we have obviously Linux. Okay, then we have Windows, and then we have Mac. Okay, so now you need to know this. Okay, these are the three operating systems. Now these two, Windows and Mac, are proprietary softwares. Okay, you need to buy a license in order to use them. Linux is open source. You do not need a license to buy this. You just need a file and you can just install it on your own. But you need license to install Windows and Mac OS. The second thing is Mac OS works on Unix. Unix is similar to Linux. So the commands that you run on a Linux system, you can obviously run on a Mac OS system. There are a few changes, very, very tiny changes, but you can use similar commands to Linux on Mac OS as well. So it works on the foundation. It's called Darwin. Mac OS works on Darwin, which is a open source Unix foundation. Okay, so yes, great. Moving on. So you know what a kernel is. Now what is a bootloader? Okay, so whenever you press the start button on your laptop, or we had PCs 10-15 years ago. Okay, so when you press the start button, it starts to boot, which means it runs the file that are required to start your system. Okay, so the bootloader is a process, is a program, okay, inside of your kernel. So these files that are required to run your system, these are also there inside of the kernel. Okay, so bootloader is a program that loads all of the files that are required to start your system. Okay, it runs the operating system. It is present, like the file that is present inside of the kernel. Okay, in Linux, the bootloader is called grub. Grub is Grand Unified Bootloader. Okay, this is not like grub is not the only bootloader. There is another bootloader called Lilo inside of this, because there are a lot of flavors of Linux. Okay, so you have Red Hat, you have CentOS, you have Kali Linux, all of these different flavors. So different flavors use different bootloaders. So yeah, so that's what the bootloader is. Then coming to the Linux file systems, everything inside of Linux starts at root. So this is the symbol. This slash is used as the root. Okay, anything that happens, any file that you are in, you will be after this is like the starting point. Okay, so this is called the root. Okay, then you can go we will learn about the file system, but these are like the basic folders that are basic directories that are there inside of the root. Home, opt, user, bin stores the binaries. Okay, and then we have dev. Oh, I wrote bin twice, never mind. Okay, temp, variable stores the logs and many other things. Okay, etc is not etc, it is a file inside of, it is a directory inside of root. Okay, great. Now moving to these commands, we will discuss these commands practically in the next video, so watch out for that. And these are very important commands. Okay, you do not like, these are very basics. Okay, on top of this we will learn more commands in the intermediate and the advanced level, so please understand these commands. These are fairly basic. You don't, you won't take a lot of time. And this I will share this document. It is a one-page document which contains basic, intermediate, advanced, all of the three things. And I don't explain all of these commands inside this document. They're just listed, but once you know what these commands are, okay, when you're revising, okay, you can just look at, okay, I know what ls does, I know what cd does, I know what pwd does, I know all of these. Okay, so it's just like an overview. Okay, so I'm not trying to make this note very intense with adding, like by adding all of the meaning of these commands, but you get it. Okay, thank you so much. Watch out for the other video and see you then. Bye bye.